Welcome back, and we continue the conversations on culture. In India, stories don't sit quietly in books. They sing, dance, argue, laugh, and sometimes even tease us. To take us into this world of living storytelling traditions, we have Ramaa Bharadvaj, dancer, writer, storyteller, and choreographer. She was the first Indian dancer to receive Lester Houghton Award for her choreographies and remains the only performing artist to be honored with California Arts Council's Director's Award for her exemplary contributions to the arts in California.
Come and welcome to siesta time. Right after lunch, this is a tough slot. So let me see if I can keep you all awake for the next 35 minutes. Today, I have no PowerPoint presentation. Why? Because this is the power that's going to make all the points. And this session is going to stay true to its title, a living voice exploring some living epics. And here again, the session is not about itemizing all the story traditions of India, but an internalized sharing of the ones that I have experienced. My name is Ramaa Bharadvaj, and I tell stories. Through movements as a dancer, through words as a writer, and through both as a storyteller, I tell stories. I love this audience. And you can think of today's session as a story about stories, a perspective rather than a checklist. And I'm going to begin with that term, oral tradition, used to define stories, a term that is generally understood to mean unscripted. However, the term oral is the base of the Indian pyramid on which all regional literature rests. The term is not limited to the act of speaking, but refers to the very word that is spoken. Because the term oral tradition comprises of the entire collective memory of stories, rituals, images, poems of a culture's past that has been preserved through the word. So, it's the word that is the tradition, and the orality of the word becomes the source of the script. And in India, the Vedas themselves are an oral tradition, if you think about it. Shruti, they were called because they are recited and heard, not written and read. The memory of this Vedic wisdom becomes Smriti, and its transcription becomes Purana. English professor Dr. Divya Joshi, in her discussion of language philosophy, points to Ramayana and Mahabharata as striking examples of an oral epic becoming a textual tradition. Lavakucha's oral rendition becomes the written text Ramayana. And in Mahabharata, it is Vyasa's oral dictation that is transcribed by Ganesha. She also points out that the reader of these transcribed oral wisdom is never a passive receiver. The theory of rasa and dhvani come into play, and the text is recoded by the consciousness of its receiver, so that she may have multiple aesthetic experiences. Thus, a text is never an object that should produce a single invariant reading. And this is why myriad storytelling and narrative traditions exist in India to produce multiple aesthetic experiences. Now we will see how these storytelling traditions preserve our cultural memory, our spirituality, and our generational wisdom, how they act as tools for community building and even as resistance against oppression. Plus, the tremendous impact that performance aspect of a story can have on its literary roots. You can broadly classify the story traditions of India as two: performative traditions such as dance forms, theater art like Yakshagana and Chakyarkootu, musical renditions, and narrating of epics. And two, pictorial representation, paintings, scrolls, wooden temples, etc. They kept traditions alive beyond written texts by blending entertainment with moral instruction. Now we will see some of the immensely popular storytelling traditions of India. From Andhra and Telangana, Burrakatha. A trio narrates Puranic stories or local legends with a hollow stringed instrument called burra, which means, supposed to mean brain in Telugu, because the shell of the tanpura resembles a human skull. The power of these stories is evident from the fact that the pre-independence period, they created themes about political and freedom struggle. So, the art form was banned during the colonial period in Madras Presidency. And during the Nizam rule in Telangana, also it was banned because it was used to generate political activism amongst the masses. And then from Tamil Nadu, we have Villupattu. Performers known as Pulavar used a single stringed bow-like instrument with bells attached to it and narrated ballads and epics. From Karnataka and Kerala, we have theater art forms like Yakshagana and Chakyarkootu. Puppetry is popular throughout India. Glove puppets, string puppets, rod, shadow puppets are the basic 4 types of puppets. And then we come to Katha, religious storytelling for moral lessons. These performances are ritual event in Hinduism. Professional storytellers recite puranas, ithihasas, followed by commentary. Major Katha traditions are Upanyasa or Pravachana, Harikatha, and Kathakalakshepam. Upanyasa means placing near God. It is a discourse that explains theological texts. Storytellers elaborate on the significance of the scripture, providing angles to look at a verse or word. Music is used sparingly. Here, I wish to share that my uncle, Shenkalipuram Anantarama Dikshitar, was regarded as a legendary Upanyasaka. He is credited with popularizing Narayaniyam, the text of Narayaniyam text of Kerala, and bringing it into Hindu households all over India. He was regarded as an avatar of Narayana Bhattatri himself. And even today, if you go to Guruvayur temple, you can see a life-size painting of him in the main hall. Incredible memory, imagination, mastery in the texts, and fluency and flow of language were his hallmark traits. Here I want to share something with you. His recitation of the entire lineage of Lord Rama, 68 generations, without a single reference in front of him, was astounding. And it would go something like this. I'll try to see if I can sound like him. நல்ல புண்ணியமான வம்சம் அந்த வம்சம் சாக்ஷாத் நாராயணன் நாராயணனுடைய நாபி கமலத்தில் பிரம்மதேவன் பிரம்மதேவனுடைய புள்ள மரீச்சி மரீச்சியினுடைய புள்ள காஷ்யபர் காஷ்யபருடைய புள்ள சூரியன் சூரியனுடைய புள்ள மனு மனுவனுடைய புள்ள இக்ஷ்வாகு இக்ஷ்வாகுனுடைய புள்ள விகுக்ஷி விகுக்ஷியினுடைய புள்ள புரஞ்சயன் புரஞ்சயனுடைய புள்ள அனேனசு அனேனசனுடைய புள்ள பிருது பிருதுவனுடைய புள்ள விஸ்வரந்தி விஸ்வரந்தியுடைய I can't sound like him. விஸ்வரந்தியுடைய புள்ள சந்திரன் சந்திரனுடைய புள்ள யுவனாஸ்வன் யுவனாஸ்வனுடைய புள்ள சாபஸ்தன் சாபஸ்தனுடைய புள்ள பிருகதஸ்வன், and he would go on. This is only 16 I have recited, and he would say the entire 68 of Surya Vamsha. And it would increase in pace and pitch and end in a sloka crescendo, sending audience into raptures. He was called Upanyasa Chakravarti, my uncle, Sengalipuram, Anantarama Dikshita. Then we have Harikatha and Kathakalakshepam, both with very high musical content. Harikatha is said to have originated from Narada. According to Padma Purana story, Mahavishnu was asked by Narada of the simplest sadhana for people to realize the Lord easily in Kali Yuga. And the Lord answers, Naham vasami vaikunte yoginam hridayena cha mad bhakta yatra gayanti tatra tishtami narada. I reside neither in Vaikunta nor in the hearts of yogis, O Narada. I stay where my devotees sing my name. Harikatha is a one-person theatrical art form where Puranic tales are adapted for contemporary times with moral lessons. This requires expertise in classical music, narrative skill, proficiency in the epics, philosophical doctrines, plus awareness of current socio-political events to be able to interpret aspects of Sanatana Dharma in a simple manner. Saint poets like Jnaneshwar, Namdev, Tukaram, Ramdas, Purandaradasa, all were supposed to have been exponents. And Shivaji Maharaj is said to have been a patron of Harikatha and is said to have performed it himself. In modern times, Vishaka Hari's name comes to mind. And a milestone for the Harikatha was its induction. I don't know how many of you know about this, but its induction into the national education policy in 2021 for implementation into school syllabus as a creative subject. Then we have a most colorful and widespread form of storytelling, our 8 classical dances from all parts of India. You know what it is: Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, Kathak, Manipuri, Odissi, and Satriya. Now, Sangeet Natak Academy has listed these 8, but then the Ministry of Culture has also added Chow dance. So we can say we actually have 9 classical dance forms. And the purpose of these dance forms went beyond entertainment. Kalakshetra's own Dhananjayan Anna once stated it beautifully. He said the purpose of Natya is to educate the illiterate, enlighten the literate, and entertain the enlightened ones. Credit to Dhananjayan Anna. And Abhinav Gupta and others state moral inculcation or upadesha to be one of the aims of Natya through the invocation of rasa. Natya reinforced the sacred in Indian society because in our culture, theology and aesthetics are inextricably linked. Did you know that just like in prayers, like if you chant Lalita Sahasranamam or Vishnu Sahasranamam, we have a Palashruti in the end. The blessing that would come from chanting it. Natya also has a Palashruti. Bharata Muni has given us one. Not just for performers, but for the organizers and the audience as well. To the artist, he says, "You shall attain the same gains as performers of great yajnas, and an offering of your art shall be more pleasing to the gods than an offering of scents and garlands." Okay. न तथा गन्धमाल्येन देवाः तुष्यन्ति पूजिताः यदा नाट्यप्रयोगस्तैर्नित्यं तुष्यन्ति मङ्गलैः. And then to the organizers, he says, "Giving people an opportunity to watch performances shall be ranked the highest among all charities. Dana dharmeshu sarveshu kirtyate tu mahatphalam prekshaniya pradanam hi sarvadaneshu shasyate." And then to the audience, he says, "By attending performances, you too shall attain all the benefits of a meritorious path. Tatasthu." So these are briefly a gaze at the performative storytelling traditions. An interesting thing here is that I must point out is the tremendous impact that performative storytelling sometimes has on the original written text of that story. For example, we all know of the famous story of Nandanar, an ardent devotee from the Pulayar community who is denied entry into temples. Now, the original version of this story comes from Shekirar's 12th century work, Periya Purana. And it focuses on Nandanar's internal struggle as the main obstacle. His own hesitation to enter the holy temples, feeling his caste status makes him unclean due to perceived lowly birth. And then, in the mid-1800s, Gopalakrishna Bharati comes along. And what does he do? He writes a Harikatha version of this story, reinterpreting the story, and he externalized this conflict and introduced a villain in the story. Who's the villain? The Brahmin landlord who prevents Nandanar from visiting Chidambaram. Now, both versions include the divine miracle of the Nandi statue moving at Tiruppungur so that Nandanar can have a vision of Lord Shiva. But Bharati added a new miracle. The landlord gives Nandanar an impossible task. Cultivate the vast field in one night and then you can go. The Lord, of course, sends his attendants to do the work, and the whole thing gets done overnight, symbolizing divine intervention against oppression. Now, Gopalakrishna Bharati's songs transformed the story from a religious text into a powerfully emotional narrative that highlighted the atrocities of caste system and became a tool for social change and resonated with the Indian nationalist movement at that time. He saw it as a need of the time. The work used simple, soulful Tamil lyrics set to Carnatic music and became a huge hit with Harikatha performers, and later a massively successful 1942 movie, Nandanar, turned it into a mega hit. The individual songs became favorites of dancers and musicians, and soon the original story that internalized Nandanar's journey was taken over by Bharati's externalized version with its extra characters and events. In fact, at an event in Bengaluru, a gentleman approached me and asked if I knew the location of the field that Nandanam was asked to plow. And I told him, yes, in the mind of Gopalakrishna Bharati. Because such an occurrence never happened, at least not according to Shekar. The reason I share this story is to emphasize the immense power of performative art. That is why performing artists must be careful in their interpretation and make sure we access the original texts and if we are going to change it, to do it consciously and with good reason. And Gopalakrishna Bharati had his good reason and he did it consciously. Next, we will look at the second part, pictorial storytelling, especially via folk art. Many of these artists come from tribal communities and from lower caste, and these art forms give voice to the stories and served both communicative as well as ritualistic functions. And while styles like the well-known Varli from Maharashtra told stories of tribal life, others like scroll paintings served a sacred purpose. I'll list a few because they are popular and you might know them. Patachitra of Odisha. Storytelling was used for storytelling in temples. Pad from Rajasthan, depicting heroic exploits of gods and Rajput warriors. And these were used as portable temples. Then we have the Kalighat paintings from West Bengal, which served as visual story about the glory of the divine, with some scrolls supposedly spanning more than 20 feet. The storyteller went from village to village with his paintings and sang stories from epics, folklore, and for illiterate peasants. Another curious art for ritual storytelling is the kavod from Rajasthan. And this is like a wooden structure which resembles a closed shrine with several folding panels that are hinged together and opened and closed like doors, revealing painted scenes from Mahabharata and Ramayana. And the storyteller carried this kavod to homes of patrons, and by opening and closing these hinged doors, narrated different parts of the story. The makers of this wooden temple considered themselves as descendants of Vishwakarma. And the narrators considered themselves as descendants of Shravan Kumar, the boy who was accidentally killed by Dasharatha in Ramayana. Now, today we have amidst us an accomplished folk artist, Hema Meenakshi. When I told her my idea of talking about pictorial storytelling, she readily agreed to share two of her paintings in two different styles so that you can experience them visually, texture and all. And I'm going to boast a little bit about Hema because Hema happens to be my youngest sister. Hema has gained recognition not only for her intricate workmanship, but also for her strict adherence to authenticity of each style. And her repertoire right now consists of 18 to 20 distinct folk painting styles that she has learned directly from masters of these styles. And I'm proud to say that she lives right here in Adayar. Now I'd like to invite Hema onto the stage. And also the paintings will be brought onto the stage. And I'll speak about the fascinating aspects of the two pictorial storytelling paintings that she has created. first style hails from Gujarat and is called Matani Pachedi. It was created by the semi-nomadic Wagri tribe who were denied entry into temples. So what did they do? They smartly created their own temporary sacred spaces with fabrics on which they painted images of goddesses and used them as canopies and hangings to demarcate the sacred space where the ceremony takes place. And the goddess who is portrayed there, Hema, can you point to the goddess? The goddess who is portrayed here is Bahuchar Mata, a goddess of fertility, and curiously, she is also the deity of the third gender community. The colors you see are derived through a complex natural dyeing process, which is a story by itself. Hema explained it to me, but believe me, I can't repeat it at all. And I asked her, would she say it? And she said, no, not in front of an audience. I can paint, but no, talking, please. But she will be available afterwards, so you can meet her and talk to her. Now, can we do the second painting? Now you're going to see a second painting by Hema. This is called Khobar, from Mithila region of Bihar. Now, the Khobar paintings were created during weddings, especially for the nuptial room where the bride and groom consummated their marriage. To bless the couple with a happy married life, the walls of fabric in this room were decorated with Khobar paintings. Where is Hema? Okay. Now, she will point out to some of the elements here as I am talking about them. The central motif is the large lotus leaf, surrounded by 6 smaller leaves. The central pillar is a symbol of masculinity, while the leaves represent the women. Thus, the Khobar is a visual metaphor for the strong bond between this man and woman who are coming together for the first time. Khobar paintings included elements with symbolic significance, such as the sun and the moon, witnesses of the marriage, bamboo, representing lineage, lotus leaf for femininity, Navagraha, parrots for wisdom, bananas for masculinity, turtles for longevity, fish for fertility, bees for abundance, scorpions for warding off evil spirits, snakes for divinity. And then there is an elephant for which a Gaja Puja is done. That is also portrayed. So, thank you, Hema. See, this is why I didn't want PowerPoint. Nothing like live, right? And after the session, you are invited to come and take a look at it up close if you want, and also ask Hema any questions about them. In addition to these professional art forms, stories formed the staple of everyday homes and lives. Children's playtime, bedtime were enriched with story songs. Children were introduced to stories from ithihasa and purana through story lullabies, kadai thalattu. But these lullabies turned mega epics into mini epics. Now I want to share with you one such mini epic, Ramayana Kadai Thalattu. And the song starts like this. தாயார் சொற்படிக்கு ராமர் வழி நடந்தார், பர்ணக சால கட்டி சுவாமி பகவானும் பள்ளி கொண்டார். When I first came across this song in a book for my story theater work, Tarkapattu, I was totally astounded because I noticed something absolutely clever in this opening lines. This is, of course, my own analysis, but I will share it with you now. So, what does the child want? A story of a hero. And what does the hero of this epic, Ramayana, do? Tayar sorpadikku Ramar vali nadandar. He listened to the word or the order of his mother, or in this case, stepmother, and he went where she told him to go. And then what did he do? Parnaga Salakatti Swami Bhagavanam Pallikondar. He built a hut for himself and he went to bed. What a clever way of saying, listen to your mom and go to bed. Huh? So here is the full song, and I'll share it with you with movement because I'm, after all, dancer. Tayar sorpadikku Ramar vali nadandar. Parnaga Salakatti Swami Bhagavanum Pallikondar. Vagayariya Sitayarum Swami மான் எனக்கு வேண்டும் என்றாள். ஈஸ்வரரும் மான் பிடிக்க வனம் புகுந்தார். பிச்சை என்றான் ராவணனும் அள்ளிட்டாள் சாணக்கியாள். கூசாம சீதையரை கொண்டு வந்தான் தென்னிலங்கை. அனுமாரை தூதனுப்பி சீராழி கை கொடுத்து சீதை சிறை மீட்டாராம். ராமர் சீதை சிறை மீட்டாராம். கணையாழி கை கொடுத்து காரிகையை மீட்டாராம். ராமர் காரிகையை மீட்டாராம். ராம் ராம். By the way, folks, that last Ram Ram is not in the song, that's my own addition. And India's oral traditions are usually identified with classical traditions. But there is another harmony found as proverbs, riddles, and conundrums. They serve as tests of wisdom, wit, and morality. Example, we have questions in Yakshaprashna, in the Mahabharata, and brain teasers in Birbal and Tenali Raman stories. They involve cosmic questions, moral dilemmas, or logical puzzles, highlighting wit and philosophical or practical intelligence. And so the stories go on. And I want to thank Manaswini for inviting me to this forum so that I can proudly share this storyteller avatar of mine. You see, my foundation is in dancing. I'm a student of Valur Ramaya Pillai and Kumari Kamala, and in fact, this month, next week, 2026, I would complete 61 years of my Arangetram. In life, 60 years is said to be the completion of a cycle. And in my artistic life also, I've come a full cycle from a performer who used to define stories through dance to this new avatar of a narratrix who defines dance through stories. And I have created several story theater works after I discovered this avatar of mine, which I discovered during the COVID time. And my latest work is Avatarana, the story of Natya, created in my own signature style that fuses evocative storytelling with dance, expressive theater, original musical soundscapes, humor, plus, most important, cultural insights to reanimate and recontextualize ancient tales for urban audiences of today. And this work has traveled to most major cities in India. And next week, on Shivaratri night, actually, I've been invited to present it at Pandit Ravi Shankar and George Harrison International Festival of Arts in Delhi at the Ravi Shankar Center. And if you have friends in Delhi, do invite them all on my behalf because it is an all-are-welcome event. And I would love to share it with them. So thank you all for staying awake.
I'm going to just say a few words, Ramaa.
Yes,
Okay. That was great, like I've known Ramaa for many years now. Might be for very many years. And she's always intrigued me because of her knowledge, her witty nature, her spontaneity and spontaneous nature. And I've been given only 2 minutes. And so I have to say that you all should watch her. I was hoping that she would perform at least one small thing. But she didn't. She just gave a seminar. I was hoping one Tarka part, something which she would give. Of course, Ram was good, but I was hoping for it. But she's a great person to see, where she could just connect with the audience. And like, it's something which I don't think any of us have thought of it in that way. I really want to thank her, and it's been wonderful knowing her. Even she did, I think, Jungle Book way back, 90s. Jungle Book was?
No, Panchatantra.
Panchatantra. It was Panchatantra that she did many years ago. And the beautiful one jati from there, I want you to say, that Korang.
This is a jati I created myself. And I'm talking about, when was it? 20
90s,
years ago?
91, I think.
Right?
1991, yeah.
It's a monkeys are dancing, so I created this jati using monkey names, like Vanaram, Tundi, Mandi, and all that stuff. So I hope I remember it, it's been so long. It goes, Vanarataka Deenarataka Tom, Takatom, Takatom, Tak Vanarataka Deenarataka Tanara Deenaratum, Naradim Tanakurangata Vitam. Dim Tana Kurangata Vitam. Dim Tana Kurangata Vitam Tajam Tam Tarikita Vanarataka Deenarataka Tum. Tundit Tadim Nakadit Tadim Nandit Tadim Nakadim Tadim. Tundit Tadim Nakadit Tadim Mandit Tadim Nakadit Tadim. Tundit Tadim. That's Pogo and the Panchanadela Pogo. Now I don't remember, but I remember this much. That is like, I was amazed. And then I have to share this with you. My very first performance of Panchatantra here, I didn't bring all my students from the US at that time. It was Revati students who joined me at that time. She generously shared her students with me who did all the monkey rolls.
And thank you so much. And she did a wonderful show when I brought her, as soon as I had become the director of Kalakshetra sometime back. She did a Tarka part. It was on one cat thing. That was very, very amazing. So thank you so much. Lovely to see you back here.
Thank you.
And thanks for the children for bringing her back here.